All right, Mike. I guess the first thing I want to talk to you about since we're doing our NCAA wish list is what do you love about NCAA football games and kind of what was your favorite game or fond memories growing up of NCAA?
I have a lot of fond memories playing the game. A lot in like third to fifth grade, I would say. That's when the games got really good. I can't remember the dates, but I know from third to fifth grade, the games that were coming out were fun. And I just really liked the fact that there were so many different teams, and they ran so many different playbooks. There seemed to be so many different features compared to just play now that a lot of the Maddens had at the time. Um, I would say a lot, and the coolest thing is, hey, if you remembered who was on that team, you know, they wouldn't say their name, but if you remember their number, you would know like who you're playing at least. So it would feel like you're playing, hey, Colt McCoy or Sam Bradford, whoever it was at the time that I was always trying to play.
Yeah, it
What
was it
about you?
was it was kind of weird because like they didn't have the names, but like I remember like looking it up or figuring out who's on the team or you follow the few teams that you follow as a kid, you'd be like, oh, that's so and so, he's a legend. That's EJ Manuel, the starting quarterback of Florida State. Stuff like that was cool to see. I loved the old playbooks. It just felt so much deeper and like no knock on Madden because Madden's job is to replicate the NFL, and even if you do a good job, the NFL is a lot more boring when it comes to their playbook. You don't have as much diversity in your playbook when you look at at Madden. When you look at the NFL, a lot of teams run similar systems. There's not as much variations. But in NCAA, because you don't always have the athletes to fit certain systems, you don't have the best of the best, you kind of have to work with what you got. So you have these really quirky offenses, these really different offenses, you have like an option team and you have, a ground and pound team. It just felt so different. It's like every team you're playing could play a different style. And I felt like NCAA did a really good job, especially in the old days in the, mid 2000s of really replicating how different a lot of teams were, and it felt like every team had a different feel, and that was so much more fun to me as a player of the game to kind of see, okay, this team, Georgia Tech runs the triple option when it happens, and then Texas Tech has the spread, and they're going to air raid, and they're going to throw it around, and they're going to throw it every play, and you don't have to really watch out for the run. So I really loved how different the games were. And I remember I played, I think my first one I had was NCAA 03, even though it was like probably about 5 years late or old. I just remember that's the first one I could get my hands on because I didn't have much money on my GameCube, and I just played hours into that and just the customization and all the fun. NCAA to me will always be my favorite video game, and it was just devastating that we're looking at what 10 years now. I think we're at 10 years. We haven't had a new one, so just ready for the new one to come out next year. I'm excited for that. And before we kind of really get into the wish list, the good news is that came out this week is NCAA 24 will have real players. So for the first time, we will not have to, oh, number 10 is Colt McCoy, figure it out who you're playing as because there will be real players in the game. Yes, players can opt out, but EA made a deal with an agency. I'm blanking on the name and not going to take the time to look it up, but they made a deal. Basically, their job is this firm is going to go around and they're going to handle the licensing and getting the licensing done. So players have the ability to opt in, opt out. I don't think there'll be much money. They'll probably give them a copy and maybe a little bit of a deal. But you'll have real players in, and if they decide not to, then they'll have a fake player in their place. So really cool news. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's really awesome. I think it's great. It helps with the immersion, like you said, like we were talking about earlier with world building. This is something big that can really help you. I mean, first name, last name basis, the likeness as well, right? You have a lot of these resources that you didn't have before that can make a more immersive game and a more replayable game that makes it to where these developers want to put the time into the game that you would see in the old games, right? No more copy paste. Hey, they sit here and pick this game apart. We need to make sure that this is a complete game.
Yeah, no, no, you're right. You're right on the point on that one. You're right on the nose. But yeah, it should be exciting. I'm seeing it now in the future, like a couple years from now, like freshmen like a YouTube video from like Florida or someone, and they're having a video. It's like freshman EA day, and they're all getting like scanned into the game or something like that because they opted in and like getting like an EA goodie bag and you know some universities like hyping it up. They won't do it for every university, but I could definitely see them making deals with some of the bigger ones where they show up on campus for a day and like face scan all the incoming freshmen or all, a lot of the players like they do. I see them do in soccer a lot of the time. So, go around and face scan a team. So I definitely could see that as a possible future, which is really cool to see how far we've come. On the wish list side, I think the first thing you gotta start with dynasty mode. I mean, that's the major mode of the game. It's what they've talked about. That's what they're gonna put a lot of their thought and process in is into dynasty. I don't think you're going to see, no matter how much we want it to be different than Madden. I hope they keep the playbooks like we've said, but I don't see them. It's gonna be a copy paste of Madden when it comes to the animations and game style, in my opinion. Just because 'cause you're rushing a product, you're gonna be focused on getting the assets and the customization of the college side of the game. You're not gonna be working on the core football play, gameplay, animation style of the game. They're just gonna take that from Madden. So it's gonna play like a Madden, but I hope it feels different than Madden. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I see what you're saying, and I kind of agree. That makes sense. They're not gonna rewrite resources completely for something like this. Just because they're not the company to do that. Like at the end of the day, they're not Valve. They're not making Counter-Strike Source 2.0. They're still making a football game. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. It works. Just make sure it's not buggy.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And also you gotta make a profit at the end of the day because it's a company at the end of the day. You gotta always look at it from that mindset. And you already have basically a product in place, even though there's a lot of hate in Madden. You already have a product in place. There's no point to reinvent the wheel. Copy paste it. Make sure you get all the assets and the customization right on the college feel of it right, and then you can always update and change from there. And I hope they do that. But I mean, you got to get the product out to make money first. So I think you're going to take as much from Madden as you can. And so I'm trying to when I come up with a lot of these ideas for my wish list, I just want to get the people in this mindset. When I come up with all these ideas, I'm trying to take from other games so they can take those ideas or hopefully have some programming or have some code and some assets that they can copy over from other games and dump into NCAA. So it's not like you're starting from scratch. So that's where a lot of my thought process and thinking comes from. So hopefully that makes sense when I kind of break that up. But first thing I want to talk about is recruiting. I think recruiting is the core of all NCAA football games. Recruiting is what makes it fun. Is trying to what I like to do is take a bad school and try to get them all the way to the top and try to recruit and try to get like 5-star players at the end of the day. I think where they failed recruiting with 14, the last iteration of the game, was they really dumbed it down and tried to make it easy. If you don't remember, they put points into it. You had like, let's say 5,000 points. You could max out 500 points a week on a player. It really just felt bland. It was like, oh, this player's good. Let me put 500 points. And then basically each school had ratings based on, under the hood ratings based on your school. And each player had under the hood ratings of what they preferred. And based on that, it kind of generated, here you go. He'll go to you if you give a lot of points. He won't go to you unless you do this. Kind of really bland, boring recruiting. I hope they fix it and go to more of the old school where you had to call and really put time and energy into recruiting. And one thing I hope they take where they had in Madden is player tags. So if you've been playing the new Madden, they've introduced player tags where it comes into free agency. So for example, Madden, one of their player tags is wants to play with the franchise quarterback. So, or something along those lines, or franchise QB. So, if a wide receiver, which makes sense, wants to play with the franchise quarterback, they have a tag for it. And if they have that tag, they're more likely to go to a team that has a franchise quarterback. So based on, or hometown, maybe if it's your hometown and they want to play at home, then you have a better chance if they're from Louisiana and you're New Orleans, right? You have a better chance to get them in Madden. So I hope they bring that idea and that concept to recruiting because they already have it in Madden. So bring it over. For example, like academics. If you have a tag like academics, so a player who focuses on academics, they're only going to go to schools that have a certain standard. You know, the Stanfords, the Rices, the Cal Berkeleys. That's the type of schools that player is going to be looked for. If you're Alabama or a school that's not known for your academics, you're gonna have a harder time. Um, so like having a grade scale and having that like tags like academic would be cool to see. And then like for example, academics are gonna be guys who are gonna probably stay all 4 years to get their degree, so they have a higher chance of not going pro. So you're recruiting those guys, you're gonna have a better chance of knowing, hey, this guy's gonna stay for a while because he's more worried about his academics than going pro. And then maybe you have a tag like future pro, and that guy, the first chance he gets to go to the NFL, he's gonna go. Like if he gets his chance, if he's good enough, he's gonna try to go pro his junior year. So hey, I'm gonna get this guy, he might be really, really good, but he's gonna leave me early. So I gotta plan for that. Or, guys maybe have a tag like first day starter, like they're gonna want to start right away. And if you don't start them, they're gonna transfer. So what is your
Okay.
thought on that?
No, I think that's a great idea. It adds a lot of strategy. It adds a strategy to the game, almost kind of a card game type idea to it with how do you want to plan your team out, right? Do you want to win now? Do you want to be in balance mode? Do you want to be in, let's try to do the best we can here? Well, you kind of have you get to differentiate who you're going to target in these recruiting patterns, like you said, and really kind of give your own team an identity different than anybody else that would have a take like that.
Yeah, no, and I think it just adds a layer to recruiting that makes it more fun, and you can even make it harder. Like first draft day sports, or there's a college basketball game I used to play. I want to say it's like draft day sports or something like that. And what they do so well is they like, for example, if you were playing, I played as Harvard one year, and when I was playing as Harvard, I recruited a guy at one point, there was a day where the SAT scores came out and the GPA came out, and if they didn't have a certain score, basically they couldn't go to my school. So I think that could be an added layer as well. Is like if you do an academic school and this person doesn't reach a certain, because these are all fake players, if they don't reach a certain standard, then they can't go to your school. So you have to also be strategic on who you're recruiting as well. Like if you're Stanford and you're like, oh, this guy's a 5-star, but he's dumb as a rock, like, he's not worth recruiting, even though he might be interested in your school, he's not going to get in. So it's not worth, putting those resources into him. So I just think that's a fun dynamic. Recruiting is the core of college football. And it's about the roller coaster ride, right? One day it's awesome and everything's going your way. The next day it sucks because you lost the 5-star to another school, or you lost this really talented player. And it always ebbs and flows, and there's lots of changes. So I just hope they replicate that and replicate kind of like each player wanting different things, because every player is different. And I don't want the generic, like it felt like in 2014's game, where it was just like, oh, put points. It felt like everyone was the same. Oh, this guy's interested in me. I'm going to put all my points as I can into him because I want to win him. It didn't really feel like you're battling for a guy. You know what I mean?
Right. You're not going toe to toe with anybody else and trying to pressure them and utilize what's good about your team. You're just kind of weighing your points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh, I have a bunch of points. Let me put the points. Where it should feel like, oh, I'm going against this school. What are my strengths compared to their strengths, and how can I convince this guy to go? As well as I'd like to see evaluations like NIL. I know they can't put NIL money in the game, but they could put a tab, for evaluations, or money opportunities for players. And, if your school like Alabama or Texas, you have an A+ rating in there. So that means, guys who are more attracted to money, maybe they have a money tag, and they're more worried about the money, because there are guys like that. They care more about the money, and it's more power to them. So that would be kind of a cool thing to also replicate. Don't think they'll have that in the game, but that'd be a cool feature too. Like a guy who's more, money tag, and So he's just going to go to the school that has, the most opportunities to make money. So,
Okay, okay,
um,
absolutely.
yeah. So the next thing I guess we have to talk about is, unless you have anything else you want to add to recruiting.
No, I think you kind of summed up what I would think would be a good wish list for recruiting, especially with a lot of the interface probably going to look replicated as well.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, I just hope they bring it fun and make it competitive. That's all you can ask for in recruiting is make it fun and competitive and just
We'll make
make
it feel
it.
like your decision matter.
Yeah, make you like your decision matter. Make like there's stakes on the line, not just oh, got to recruit this week and throw my points. And all right, next week play my game. All right, now to make sure I throw my points. Oh no, I'm losing out on this guy. I guess I'll take away all my points here and throw them into another guy who I have a chance to win. And it's like you're not really thinking, you're not really trying, you're not really fighting for players.
Right, you're thinking about the opportunity cost of your actions.
Yeah, exactly. More of like, can I sell this program and do I have an advantage in this player? What are my weaknesses? Is it worth recruiting this player? You know, I think taking the tag idea from Madden and putting it into NCAA would be easy. You already kind of have a foundation of it. You already have a system in place, where, you know, certain things matter in free agency. Take that, put that into recruiting a little bit, tweak it, and then I think that'd be fun and something you could see. Transfer portal is now a huge thing in football, so I'm interested to see how they do that in the game. I think you have to put the transfer portal. It can't just be like the old NCAA, if you remember, was just, oh, this guy's transferring to so and so school. And then, you could try to convince him to stay. And, if you didn't convince him, then he's left. If you convince him to stay, he stayed. And usually had to like promise like playing time or something, whatever, for whatever reason is leaving. You had to make a promise, and that was it, right? And then you would click next, and then the next week it'd be like, here's all the guys transferring to your school, and you could take them or not take them. There wasn't really anything about it. With how the transfer portal has changed since the 10 years of NCAA football, the last football game came out, you have to, and I mean, you have to update the transfer portal. You have to have it be a key part of the game, and you have to make it more like recruiting. I think you finish recruiting and then you go to the transfer portal. So then it becomes another strategy in my mind of, hey, I have 7 scholarships left. Do I put them into freshmen, incoming freshmen? Do I wait to the transfer portal and try to win the transfer portal? So it makes you kind of have to balance it out and strategize when do I use my scholarship? So I hope they do like, 2 weeks of off season recruiting and then kind of like free agent style Madden, like take the Madden free agent kind of interface and just put it into, the transfer portal. Hey, these are all the guys in the transfer portal. This is what they're interested in. Can you convince them to come to your school? So I think that would be the way to go to kind of make sure you have a good solid transfer portal that's kind of fun and exciting. And you know if you're the guy with the tag that, taking my tag idea, they're the guy with the tag with day one starter, you better promise them to be starting or they're going to get right back in the transfer portal the next year. So do you have anything for the transfer portal?
As far as the transfer world goes, no, I don't. I think that I think again you summed it up nicely as far as what you want in a transfer portal. I think it'd be funny to see what the game comes up with as far as a lot of these guys that will utilize the transfer portal and end up being in college for a very extended period of time. I wonder how many times that's going to come up auto generated.
Yeah, no, it should be interesting how they play it out and like how they how realistic they can get because the transfer portal is huge now. It feels like there's always a decent quarterback in the transfer portal that's been hopping around from college to college, and it's like every time you turn in a game on the weekend, you'd be like, "Oh, wasn't that guy playing at this school or this guy was at this school?" And it's like it's such a big prevalent part of the game now. So yeah, like you said, I just hope they get it right, and you got to make sure it's a big part of the game because it's a huge part of college football. It's a big deal. But then on
Right.
the flip side, it's like, is there ways to like lower it or increase it? Because it would be frustrating to, and I've already seen memes about it, people joking online of you're building, from the ground up and every time you get a good player, he just jumps ship. But I guess that's the reality of college football.
Right. Right. That's the reality of college football in the 2020s right
So
now.
I
So that's
wonder
what
if
we're gonna
they could
see.
do like loyalty ratings and stuff like that. That's something you could, scout in recruitment and possibly look into. Like, hey, this guy has a really high loyalty rating. He's worth, I should recruit this guy because if he gets good, he won't leave me or he has a lower chance of leaving. So that's something as well they can play in recruiting. So it'd be like, hey, I better look for guys who are going to be loyal because I'm looking to, build a program rather than maybe if you're right on the cusp of winning something, I'm just going to get the best players possible. And if they leave, they leave. So,
Right. Yeah. I'm just looking to compete at the highest level.
yeah. So, yeah. Anything you are interested in just going as the dynasty mode as a whole before I go to my next point? I know I kind of planned a lot out, kind of left you in the dark.
Um, so sorry. Um, as far as coaching tree history, right?
Yeah. No, no, it can be anything. I mean, coaching tree history is my next point, so I'll bring that up and talk about it, or you can talk about it. But I was like, anything in the mode that dynasty mode in general you would like to see.
Oh, in dynasty mode, I mean, there's what we were talking about before that would never happen, of course, which is being able to, experiment with, hey, not every school does things the right way. Not every school utilizes their funding in the way that of NCAA rules, right? And see, if you can play it safe, play it dirty, see what you need to win these players. That I think that would add another level, though it would be as you said, bad for marketing. So that's something I'd like to see eventually in dynasty mode. Maybe everybody could not take themselves so seriously, but with it being such a business, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to put that into a game, especially when you're dealing with licensing, because there's gonna be people like there's no way a school like Notre Dame University is gonna allow themselves into a game where they can look bad or stuff like that. So yeah, I wish because it adds to level, and we all know these schools are cheating and doing whatever it takes to be successful, but they're not going to put themselves in a situation to put it in a game what's going to make them look bad or possibly look bad. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess going on to the coaching tree history, one thing I've always loved about college football games is the fact that you can start out as an offensive coordinator, you can start out as a defense coordinator, and NCAA 14, work your way up to being a head coach. I love that progression compared to Madden where you don't really have that. And then, as you go through your thing, you have coaches, your assistant offense coordinators leave, they might get fired. Your coordinators are leaving left and right if you got a good program, and taking other jobs. And you can see they have the coaching carousel, which I loved. And I love being able to see, oh, my assistant just went to Rice or my assistant went to Sam Houston or went to another school. But that was kind of it. If you remembered, you remembered, but you might have forgot by the next time you loaded up the game. And there wasn't really a way to really check it. So I hope they had a screen where you have a coaching history tree. Uh, in that draft day sports college basketball game that I used to play a lot, they had a screen very similar. And basically all it does is it tracks where every coach is coaching tree went. So if you were a head coach, it would track where all your assistants were, where they were now recently. And then I hope they bring it into the game, just like little features. It's always a big deal when Nick Saban goes and plays Jimbo Fisher or one of his other, Kirby Smart, or one of his millions of millions, it feels like, assistants that are now taking head coaching jobs, right? So I wish that was in the game. They always bring it up when Nick Saban's playing it. They're like, oh, this guy was on the staff. They show a picture and then, they talk about it for a little bit and then they move on. I think it would really make the world that you create in that dynasty, so much better if they talk about that snippet. Just a little, maybe halfway through the first quarter, they bring up, or at the beginning of the game, they bring up, oh, this guy used to be here and, talk for a second about, how, he used to be at this school and now he's coaching here. And now that, this is They're going against each other. I think that'd be really cool. Maybe put up a little graphic of like the two coaches, their head coaching records. I don't know, something like you could see in the game. I think that would just add to it. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I absolutely I love that idea. I think it's great and adds with continuity and makes you really want to keep up with these, characters that are in your game, basically, right? So, I like that. One thing I think you could add to the coaching progression is being able to look at their playbook and see if there's been, I don't know, maybe anything added, or maybe this should be a separate line item. Having being able to add and edit the playbook with individual plays and things of that matter.
Yeah, like so you like a playbook creator or play
Yes, a
creator.
playbook creator. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, I think that's something that that you can do easily, and just kind of at least tweak or maybe take packages. The worst case, if you can't create plays, take packages from certain, create your own playbook, like what you want. If you want to have an offense that really has all these wacky formations and all these plays, I think you should be able to dice up and take, if I want Georgia Tech's, and they're not the option, I guess Navy's option offense and half option, and then dissect my offense with half air raid like Texas Tech, I should be able to do that, even though that playbook is crazy and stupid to have just those two things. But I think you
Yeah.
should be able to do that and like kind of have fun and pick and choose plays to have in your playbook and repertoire. I think that would be a cool little feature, and really show the wackiness of college football. I guess speaking on coaches and kind of differences, now that they have player likeness, I hope, and this is wishful thinking, but theoretically they should be able to get coaching likeness in the game as well. And I hope they're able to get coaches like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart in the game because they're a huge staple in the game as well. And having authentic coaches would really make the game more fun. Like you going against Nick Saban, you going against Dabo Sweeney, like you going against these actual coaches would make it more authentic and more fun. Like, can I take Vanderbilt and beat Alabama and Nick Saban? Like, can I actually do it? It would just add to the realism and make it more fun, as well as hopefully if they get these authentic coaches have them have their authentic playbooks, or not authentic playbooks per se, but like their authentic coaching styles. you know um they play the way they play, like if Nick Saban leaves Alabama for whatever reason, or Dabo leaves Clemson, or you have all these guys, they go to a different school, they play that style stays the same. You see that authentic style stay with it, so the way they play translates. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, exactly. If they're going to go to another school, their theory on football is not just going to change. It's gonna probably, and another feature you could there would be that would be cool. Domino affected a little bit is okay. Hey, he went to another school. He's getting implemented in year one, year two. Okay, it's smoothed out. Year three, it's mostly his recruitment classes now, right? So and you could really see somebody go from getting their footing to really getting the program to where quote unquote they want it, up to speed.
Yeah, exactly. So like if Navy's option quarter or coach, they run the option. And if he gets a new job and goes somewhere else, he runs the option at that new school. And now they might struggle the first year because they're running the option. So I think that would be kind of cool to see.
Right.
Or you,
Yeah.
you might
Guys
see,
that he didn't recruit.
yeah, or a lot of guys transferring in and out because he's running a whole different system. So that would be something really cool to see as well. It's like the domino effect, like it trickle through all the things. Like, hey, they have a new coach, so now they have all these players in the transfer report. You're like looking at the transfer report, it's like, why is there 15 guys from Navy, or 15 guys from this school? Because oh, it makes sense. Their coach left, or their new coach came in, or whatever it may be. That would be really cool to see as well, and kind of really build the whole world and kind of make it a lot more, to have depth and make it fun. And I think just kind of more authentic and really cool. So I really hope they could get authentic coaches. I think it just adds to the level of the game. And really, if they don't have authentic coaches, make sure there's coaching styles and they have these coaches coach certain ways, and that would make it just as fun in my mind. Make sure everyone plays different. Like Wisconsin's ground and pound. Texas Tech is, traditionally, and more Big 12 teams are going to pass the ball more and play more offensively. Big 10's going to, more ground and pound and slow it down. Typically, you know, Iowa's not going to be able to throw the ball at all, but play good defense. Like, I just want each team to play different. And I think that makes it fun and why college football is so fun. So I hope I see that. And, I hope Dynasty Mode's able to capture that. Anything else you want to add about Dynasty Mode?
About sums up all I'd like to add to Dynasty Mode. I think that'd make a really good, consistent game. And if they get this mode right, that you've got 70% of the battle won.
Yeah, no, I agree. Dynasty Mode is what makes college football great and where I think you can get most of your hours of fun or playability, I guess replayability is through dynasty mode, and so I hope they get it right. um I guess we'll see how they do it, and we'll see how fun it is. But yeah, that I think I'm just excited for dynasty mode and the college football playoff to be in it, and the fun that pertains. I guess the other big game mode you have is Road to Glory, where you take over a player and try to get them all the way. I think the big note I have to say on that is I just hope they have it where you can implement it to where you can do your road to glory and go all the way through your college career, and then implement them into the Madden game of that year, and just like it's like you can play a continuous whole career of like one guy. You can play his high school, start in his high school, play that senior season, play his college career like they did, and then you can go in and get drafted and play, and like it just you import him into Madden. He gets drafted, and it's like you have this whole continuous player where you play out his whole career. I think that would be so much fun and a reason to buy
Agreed.
Madden.
Absolutely, 100%. Uh, and a reason to buy Madden. Exactly. I mean, it's about layers of the game, right? I mean, some people are content with just picking up a game, sitting there and being able to exhibition it out, and that's all they need. That's all they'll ever need, and they can just do matchups and whatever. You might need to add some throwback teams. That's all they'll ever need. But
Yeah.
most of us need something to retain the attention, or we're going to move on to something else, especially when other sports in this genre have these things.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I think 2K, MLB The Show do a lot better job of their dynasty mode compared to what Madden has done with their franchises. So yeah, you have to hit it. Or I mean, my player. Why did I say dynasty? My player. So I hope they could find a way to make it exciting. I think the road to glory, all you really need to do is do what you do best and make some cutscenes. I think you can make it really fun that senior season. Just make it. I hope they don't go for a storyline because EA is notorious for that, where they make it a storyline and basically they put you on a path and you stay on that path. I hope they make it generic and just add some cutscenes along the way, like, oh, you're playing this game and then so and so scout shows up to your house and asks you a couple questions, and based on what you ask the questions, they might offer you a scholarship. And then maybe later on you have to make a decision halfway through the season. Oh, I'm dropping down, to 5 schools or whatever. These are my top five. You see all these kids now posting their top five. So you do something similar with the cutscene, and then decision day you decide, you know, or maybe they have fun. Like you go to an All American All Star game if your player's good enough, and you decide there or whatever, and you pick a hat and you choose the hat you want of the school, and that's cutscene. So I hope they add cutscenes like that, but keep you from the kind of one path mindset I feel like they've been on with a lot of their most recent franchise modes, where it's like, oh, you have choices, but the choices don't really matter because they're going to lead you on this one path, and the story is not going to really change. It just kind of
Right, and that's
changes the. Sorry, what you
exactly.
said. We're doing a great job of talking over each other. My bad. I'll let you talk.
No, sorry, my apologies. No, I was no, exactly. Everybody wants to feel like their decisions matter, and if you have 25 different cutscenes and in a normal road to glory scenario, you see 11 of them, you know,
Yeah.
and it would really make it to where, hey, I want to make another player and see what happens here, right? I mean, hell, even if you don't get all the way through it and play it all the way through, it made you want to put another 20, 30 hours into the game.
Yeah, no, exactly. So just different ways your player can go and a different experience and I don't think it should yeah, just not one path, like multiple paths or at least your decisions make a difference or it just has to be just add some cutscenes. Like it doesn't have to be crazy. I'll love it, enjoy it. You know, add some cutscenes when you have big on the big moments, you know, and make it fun. Like if you make the national championship, have a cool, you know, have some cool cutscenes or something like that. Have a coach that you can, you know, talk to you at practice and be like, hey, this is what you gotta do if you want to start, if you're not a starter. Just don't give me some BS storyline like they did on that one mode, like franchise QB or whatever. I don't remember what it's called or QB1 or whatever they called it. And you basically like, oh, a 5-star recruit's coming into position and he's starting over you. I don't want that. Don't give me that. Especially if I pick like a school like Rice or Wyoming. Like I don't give me that unrealistic stuff. Like there's no way, you know. Like okay, yeah. So now I have to choose switch positions or be a backup or transfer. Like no, don't give me that. Just let me enjoy the mode. Let it be authentic. Let it feel like it's in you know a live world in the sense of like things can change and it's not like I'm on a one track. This is the train this is the next stop, this is the next cutscene type of mindset. So I hope they avoid that. Which it's very tough, but we'll see. I'm not optimistic about it. I don't think Road to Glory gets much love in this game. At least the first iteration. I think they're more focused on Dynasty mode, which I'm fine with. If you're gonna make a game, make one game mode great and kind of just work from there. I guess I can accept that, you know. Um, but yeah, so I'm not optimistic about Road to Glory, but I think if they get Dynasty mode right, I can live with it, and then hopefully fix Road to Glory in the next couple of years.
I think that's a good plan. You're right, especially if they're planning on doing a long, as far as releasing yearly. You know, that's a good thing to work on, and I think that's what you need to do with a game that you release yearly is really experiment and throw a lot of things at the wall and see what sticks, while keeping the main components of the gameplay similar.
Yes, I agree, and just adding to the game. So hopefully they build some blocks to add on. I don't think Road to Glory will get much love. It doesn't seem like they've talked about it much. It's been Dynasty, 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 which is fine with me. I guess the other game mode I can think of is you have. I hope they bring back mascot mode. That one's always fun. And then I'm assuming they're gonna have some kind of ultimate team because that's all EA. That's how EA makes a lot of money. So I'm assuming there's gonna be an ultimate team thrown in there somewhere where they probably have all these like, oh, play as Vince Young, Tim Tebow, with all these college edition cards of some of your favorite players, and probably get some legends and you know that could be a lot more fun than honestly typical Madden, MUT, where it seems like most teams have pretty generically the same team. There's less players to pull from. Feel like more like FIFA's version, where there's a lot more players because college just has a lot more, and it's kind of be cool. You know, you can make different conferences, and I mean everyone will end up with an SEC or Big Ten team, but uh, you know, there's the opportunity to make I guess different teams, a Pac-12 team, a Big 12 team, an ACC team, and have these different kind of rosters with different players, So that can be cool as well. Any from final remarks on our wish list before we move on?
I mean, other than the fact that I'm just super excited to get this game and get in my hand
Yes,
and play it.
one more year. It was It's so sad because it was supposed to come out this year, this summer, but got delayed, of course. But hoping for a good game. I'm excited about it. I hope if you listened and you're still listening to this point, you got something out of it. You like some of the ideas we brought up, and hopefully we get them, man. EA, for whatever reason, if you're listening, hopefully you're working on some of these. Hopefully you give us some optimism. I love college football. I freaking buy like half your games, so do me a solid and don't screw up my game, my favorite game of all time. Um, all right, switching gears now to USFL playoff races. They're heating up. We got 3 weeks officially because the final games of week 7 just concluded, and it is as close as it can get. So the current standings in the North, you have the Stars are 4-3, the Panthers are 3-4, Generals are 2-5, Maulers are 2-5. In the South Division, you have Stallions 5-2, Showboats 4-3, Breakers 4-3, and Gamblers 4-3. Top two teams in each division make the playoffs. First off, what are your takeaways of the season so far, and like any surprising teams that shocked you, slash, any other thoughts you might have?
First off, I'll say that there is no way to make an assumption on the end of the season. This league has shown that any of these teams have the ability to knock off the other. Uh, and that's something where, like, hey, I've tried to sit here and say, okay, the Stars are bad. Okay, no, they're good. Okay, wait, what's going on? All right. Maybe everybody else in the division is bad. Okay, maybe everybody else in the division is really good compared to the other division. It's just there's not a whole lot of an idea of who is the dominating team and who's gonna win. Like, I couldn't tell you who's gonna win the championship, and I think I like that a lot. Um,
Yeah, no, I agree. It's anyone's game. It's shocking how, just, I guess, how close everyone is. How, just, I get, it's very, parity is there. It's all over. It feels like any week someone can win. It feels like the freaking Pac-12 where you're like, who's gonna come out of this? Like, I don't know. There's not a dominant team, and it's fun. I mean, it really adds to it. You're like, everyone has a chance. Every fan base should feel like, hey, my team could get hot and we could win it. So it's really exciting on that sense. I think the teams that have really disappointed me this year has to be number one on that list, has to be the Generals. I mean, after having such a good season, to fall
oh
apart
yeah.
as bad as they've been falling apart, and they're 2-5, and I mean, yeah, they can still make the playoffs, but they're not on my list of teams that can do much if they do it. I'm just not high on the Showboats, and I think their time as I just don't think they're going to do much. The Stars to me seem like they're going to be in the playoffs. I highly doubt they'd have to lose out to not make it. So I think if as long as they get one more win, they're in. So I'm gonna guess they're gonna get in just because I'm gonna play the odds here and say they're gonna get in. Because I don't think the Generals or Maulers go 3-0 in the last three games. I mean, they could, but I'm not taking I'm not placing that bet. So I think the Stars get in, and then you see the Panthers, Generals, or Maulers, whoever gets hot at the end. Which the Panthers look good today and beat the Generals, and have a 1-game lead. So if I was a betting man, I would take Panthers versus Stars in the playoffs. Which to me, I mean, my early prediction of the Stars going to the championship. I think the Stars are going to the championship. Like, I mean, it could change in a heartbeat and they could lose, but I mean, as of right now, I think the Stars are the team to beat in the North, and I don't think any of the other three teams really scare me. Can they beat the Stars in a game? Yeah, the Stars aren't that great of a team, but the Stars are my favorite, and that's what I'd have to say about the North. The South, on the other hand, just seems like a freaking crapshoot. Any of those four teams can make it. Any of those four teams can win the championship. When I look at the North, I think only the Stars really honestly can win a championship. When I look at the South, I think any of those four teams, if they're playing well, can win a championship. It should be fun. You have the Showboats have won 4 in a row. The Stallions are the defending champions. The Breakers, I don't know what the heck happened to them. Their offense fell off a cliff after being the best team in the first 4 weeks. So all in all, just I'm super excited for the down the stretch. And I'll ask you this: who is your prediction going into week 8 to win the USFL championship? What's your championship matchup? Who do you have winning?
Ooh. Okay. I'm gonna say Breakers and Stars,
So you have
and
Breakers versus Stars. Okay.
I'll have Cookus versus the heir apparent to the number one quarterback in the league here. Um, and I think we will have the Breakers winning.
Okay. I'm gonna go with, and I think it's gonna be a rematch of last year. I think it's gonna be Stallion Stars again. But I think
Really?
I do, and I think the Stallions probably winning it. I think the Stallions are finally hitting their stride. I think they have the best coach in the league. They've had a lot of injuries this year. I think you're going to get some guys healthy down the stretch. They're finding ways to win. And they're that team. They just seem like they have the chemistry, you know? They have the it factor. They have that, hey, we might not be the best team on a given day, but we're gonna find a way to scrap out and get a win, you know? And they seem to have that. The Breakers don't seem to have it. I don't trust the Gamblers. The Showboats have been playing like crazy. They're the hottest team right now, so they would scare me. Um, Especially if they get home field because they brought a freaking crowd today for the Houston game. So that would be really fun if they were hosting. But I think it's gonna be the Stallions, and I think they're gonna win it all again. I trust the coach, and I know they had the 2 losses early in the year, but I think they're gonna get healthy at the right time. The defense is starting to play a lot better, and they have some guys who should be coming back later in the year, and they can make a big difference. So
No, that I mean, hey, that's logical. I think it's possible. That's the thing is these guys have been revving up. They could be ready to go by the time playoffs hit, and they could really just take this thing over.
yeah,
And that's what I like about the league.
but I mean, they could be 8-2 going to the playoffs. They could be 5-5 and miss the playoffs. Like I don't know. This division in the South is insane to me. It's like as good as it gets. I mean, all 3 teams are over 500, or all 4 teams are over 500. Like that's insane. Like it's just good football going on. It's what the AFC West was supposed to be.
Hey, I was just about to say, it's like the AFC West was when we weren't expecting and how it was supposed to be, and and
Dude,
then wasn't.
that was so crazy. Like at the beginning of the season, they're like, "Oh, you know, the Broncos are going to win 10 games. The Raiders might win 10 games. The Chargers, how could you not pick them?" And everyone's like, "There's no way the Chiefs could win the division." And I
Right.
remember people like predicting the Chiefs to get like third in the division. It's like people are so dumb. It's everyone wants to buy the hype. I'm sure in a couple of months people will be talking about how the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really people swing so hard.
Yeah, no, and I get it. It's for clicks and views. I understand the game. I'm just not going to be playing it. But yeah, no, I'm excited. The USFL has been fun. We'll see how these last weeks go. And the next time, we talk on the podcast, we'll kind of talk about, the final stretch and the playoffs. But it's been real fun. I hope you enjoyed. I've enjoyed, talking about college football, my favorite video game. Always gets me excited. And, we'll see kind of how the USFL goes. I guess one thing to note before we wrap up is XFL is doing their version of a college draft. So that's kind of cool. They'll be doing a
Oh,
draft later this year. They're also going to be doing a bunch of their kind of player combines, I guess. You remember last year they were doing them in the summer, bunch of combines, bringing players in. It's pretty much like a very similar schedule, and then they have a XFL combine at the end. So very interested to see that. Get some guys, give guys opportunities. Really cool. Anytime the league gives opportunities to guys, get brought before scouts and really see what they can do, and we'll see which kind of maybe the next couple of stars of the league can find their home. So really excited for that. All in all, unless you have anything you want to add, Mike, I'm ready to wrap up the show.
I think this is another good old fashioned Met Schaub pick 6.
Good old fashioned Matt Shaw Pick 6. What a legend, a Houston legend. And rumor has it DeAndre Hopkins was in Houston at NRG. He put it on his Instagram. So he might be coming
Oh,
home. So that'd be big time for CJ Stroud and the boys to pick up him.
Stroud.
So other than that, thank y'all for listening. Hope you enjoyed. And peace.